eventually writing it. But that was one that I spec'd. Most things in television, you go pitch them to a studio, get a studio partner, go pitch them to a network. With Veronica Mars, I was at the end of a 4-year deal with 20th Century Fox, and I knew it was something they didn't want, and it had just been on my mind for so long that I wrote it when no one was paying me to write it. And then with Party Down, that was one that we had sold the idea originally to HBO. They read the outline and decided it wasn't funny, and and so we took it and developed it at FX. Those guys were great; they loved it, but they felt like it didn't fit with It's Always Sunny and didn't order it. And then we just believed in it so much that in that final season of Veronica Mars, when they cut our order back from 22 to 20. We all had time and there was available crew, and so sort of using our own money, we went out and shot that pilot and took it out on disc. We risked a ton of money doing that. So kind of the biggest things in my career were passion projects. iZombie is not. iZombie, I wasn't itching to do this show. In fact, it was brought to me by the head of development at Warner Brothers when I was in the editing room on the Veronica Mars movie, and I had already sold a pilot script that year, and I was working too hard, and I kept saying no, I do not want to do this, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. And what she pitched it as, she just put the cover in front of me, the cover of the graphic novel, and said, the CW needs its next great female heroine lead of a show. It needs Buffy, it needs Veronica, please write this. And that sounds sort of uninspiring, like sort of jammed down my throat, just sort of sold on the basis of the picture on the front of the graphic novel. But it has been, iZombie's been the most pleasurable first year show I've ever done. It's so rare. The first year on Veronica Mars was a nightmare. For about 8 episodes. When you're doing it, everyone has so much invested in it. The network, the studio, and they hammer you, and trying to get all those people on the same page and get something good on the other end is really tough. iZombie has just been, it's been a joyride. I mean, it's hard work, but the studio has loved it, the network has loved it, they gave us the best spot on their schedule, the cast is lovely. So I'm hopeful for that show, and it will be kind of the first thing where it was, for me, where it wasn't, this is your passion, where I think it could go well. It's certainly gone well. I will be knocking on wood now, but yeah, and that premieres March 17th. Right. Anyone else? Yeah.
So the cases in Veronica Mars are always really unique and surprising, and I was just curious to learn a little more about how you go about developing those cases that she encounters.
Yeah, it's happily for the bulk of the TV series, there's a writer's room, and everyone sort of brings in ideas, and everything kind of starts as a one-line pitch. And there are things, learning how to write that show was tough, because some shows with great big television writing staffs, they have people, we have our plot people, we have our character voice people. We were not one of those shows, and I didn't hire anyone who knew anything about writing mysteries, including myself. I went after all people who I thought had great character voices, which meant that we spent way too much time in the room trying to figure out how to break mysteries. And it took us a while to figure out, I think, what made a really good Veronica Mars case. Just an example, like when I think of episodes that bum me out, that when I watch them I'm like, oh God, what were we thinking? And it'd be like something like the E String Strangler, like we're gonna have a B story serial killer in Neptune, and Veronica's gonna figure it out in an hour. like the perfect Veronica Mars case to me is like my boyfriend took dirty pictures of me, you know, get them back. That, you know, something that felt young and yeah, like it didn't feel Nancy Drew. It felt more modern than that, but it still had a youth to it, and it had the right stakes for a high school show. Yeah.
I know that the cast is all pretty gainfully employed right now, but is there any talk of a Party Down reunion?
God, they have gotten too successful. every one of them now. Wrangling that group is tough. I just, you know, we were hired to write a script, and when I say we, really John M. Baum writes the bulk of the show, and we all kind of, all of us who created it got together and developed the story, and then John wrote the script. And there's still possibly some life to it, but every one of them has their own show, and getting them all in the same place at the same time has seemed, so far it hasn't been possible. So I'd love that. They're great. Yep. Yes.
I read that you said that the $1,000 timeline was originally the story you had plotted out for the Veronica Mars movie until you realized that you had to fill in the gap of what had happened in all those missing years. Do you have any other storylines that you kind of already have mapped out in your head? And if so, can you tell us what they touch on? Probably not. But and then also, if you envision those in book form or film form.
Well, yes, the $1,000 tan line. Just to back up to that. In you know, in the gaps between the end of the series, the TV series, and getting to do the movie, there were a couple different ideas that I either pitched or beat out part of the way, and you know, my producing partner on Veronica Mars is Joel Silver, who does big movies, big things, and so when I developed that idea, it would have been 3 or 4 years after the show had been on the air. Veronica would have been a college senior at the time, and so kind of this spring break idea was like, I was trying to figure out all the things. It's a Warner Brothers movie, they're going to want to make it for $30 million. We've got to have hot people on beaches, driving fast cars, and what, you know, placing Veronica in that spring break crowd was interesting to me. So yeah, a lot of those ideas did make it into $1,000 talent. And then, do I have the next idea in my head? No, I do not. The two books have. I've been so excited about how they've done. Really kind of mind blowing to me. When I always wanted Veronica Mars to be a book series. Even when we were on the air, I kept lobbying for that. And at the time, of course, wanted it to be high school book series. I still want to replace Nancy Drew. I feel like she had her 50 years. And I would like Veronica to have the next 50 years or so. And it's so interesting, sort of the trajectory of the series, that that it's oddly more popular now than when we were on the air. I had no publishers calling me or emailing me about a Veronica Mars book series when we were on the air, and in the 6 months leading up to the movie, I heard from 3 or 4. And then when we took it out to sell it, like, they had bids from everyone, and then to be on bestseller lists is freaky. It's and great. Although it's of course the fun fact, or the not so fun fact about the Veronica Mars novels, is that we have amazing opening weeks, which is, I appreciate it, means that all the Veronica Mars fans are going out and getting it right away, and then our drop off is like off a cliff. Gillian Flynn is not worried about Veronica Mars occupying the top 10 list for the next year and a half. So, anyone else? Yeah.
Do you think Veronica could solve the murder of Haymon Lee?
I had to think about that for a moment. I knew I was. That is. It's funny that you asked me because as I listened, I did listen to all of that series, and I kept thinking that same question. Like, that would be a great Veronica Mars case. That is literally, that's a perfect Veronica Mars case. Yes, that is. And yes, I think she could. Yeah.
Probably watched the movie 45 times.
Wow. That is 44 more than I've seen.
How much your screenplay that you turned in? How much of that? Is that it?
Yeah, largely. I mean, they didn't. They cut some stuff, but it wasn't like they were rewriting it. That was a crazy time for me because that taught me all the wrong lessons about Hollywood. I got offered that movie my first year here in LA, and I was on the Dawson's Creek writing staff, and it felt like every one of us on that staff got offered a teen movie that year. And I went in and I pitched it, and they bought it, and I did 2 drafts, and they made it. And I thought, feature writing sounds great. This is easy. And then didn't get another movie made for 13 years. Yeah, that was actually cool. It is the worst movie poster of all time. So I will say that it is so clear that those 2 people were not on the same time in the same time zone. It's like Melissa Joan Hart and Adrienne Grenier, and they're like just matted together, sort of. Like they couldn't get them together after the day after the movie wrapped to shoot a poster. And Dan Etheridge, my producing partner, likes to quote it whenever like I'm stuck on an idea. He quotes the tagline, the impossibly boring tagline of that movie, and we'll be involved in a conversation saying, what if the only guy she hasn't, what if the only guy she doesn't want is the one she needs? And thank you, Dan. That's not quite getting that tagline right, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
In your statistics, I was talking about the new sheriff, and just wondering if you thought Veronica never went to sheriff.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't think so. And I don't think so because I enjoyed writing Veronica, not playing by rules, I guess. You know, if Veronica is still a character at 50, perhaps, but I like the PI. I like writing the PI stuff. Yeah, I like the cases that come into the PI's office. I was the question earlier. This may not happen, but the idea, I will say the idea that I'm noodling with Veronica, it's a strange one. I've been very interested in Venus flytraps. Does anyone know about the illegal Venus flytrap trade? Veronica in that world. I'm just saying. That's really the one-liner on that. That's what I have. But you heard it here first. Yes?
Did anyone ever pitch you such a crazy idea for Veronica that you just, like, you couldn't take it seriously?
Well, I get pitched crazy ideas. Yeah, I mean, in the writer's room, you know, there are 100 pitches before you land on one. I'd say there have been a ton of bad ideas. Many of them of mine. Possibly the Venus flytrap one. That might fit in that category as well. Yeah.
Forgive me if this didn't ask before I came in late. What's the plan with the books movie? Like, how many books are you planning another movie?
I was. The book contract was for 2 books, and we've done those 2 books, and I have enjoyed it. Or I will say that I enjoyed the first one considerably, and the second one, because it had to be edited during iZombie, was a bitch. Nothing against the book. It just running a television show is like a 16-hour day job, and like I live in Austin but work here, and so I'm flying back and forth, and so I'd work so hard, and then like get on that flight, and then edit a chapter of the book, and it was a grueling year. So if you really want another Veronica Mars novel, do not tune into iZombie. That is really the key. I mean, because this year we're mid-season, so we did 13 episodes. In success, we'd be doing 22 a year, and that's 10 and a half months of grind and trying to fit in the time for the novel. It wouldn't be for lack of desire, because I loved having these out, but finding the time is tricky. Anyone else? Yeah.
And the movie?
And the question about the movie. There's nothing in the works. So there's no nothing happening other than conversations with Kristen about what we would want to do next. I mean, a movie would be great, but what we've talked probably more about is like a limited run, like a 6-episode True Detective with Veronica Mars. That would be the thing that I think would excite Kristen and me the most, if we could sell something like that.
Did you guys hit the number? You said during leading up to the movie there's a number you had to hit.
Well, here's the thing I will say about that. The movie made money. I read articles in the wake of the movie that bugged me because the budget on the movie was $6.5 million, and we did essentially $3.5 million at the box office, and like I saw a couple stories that said that we had failed, and actually the movie did very, very well once you factored in electronic sell-through and rentals and airplanes and hotels and all that. HBO. The movie ended up making money, which I think could get us to a next movie. But we did hit the number that could get us to a next movie, but nothing has ordered. Anyone else? Are we ready to sign books? All right. Then we'll wrap it up. I'm looking forward. Thanks everyone for coming out.